Let's get started with our first news story of the day. And this one's personal. Garry is not happy about Jack Della Maddalena's recent comment involving his son. And let's just say, things are getting heated ahead of UFC 315. During fight week, Garry was officially designated as the backup fighter for the welterweight clash between Jack Della Maddalena and Belal Muhammad. But didn't just sit around. No, he made his presence very known. In a lighthearted attempt to play some mind games, had his young son offering Jack M&Ms throughout the week. Yup, actual M&Ms. According to ChatGPT, M&Ms are one of Jack's favorite candies. So had a clever plan in mind. Use the candy to tempt Jack into breaking his discipline, just enough to maybe miss weight. He even jokingly placed M&Ms on the scale. It was all meant to be fun, strategic, but playful. Some classic pre-fight banter. Or so thought, but Jack didn't exactly see it that way. When asked about the M&Ms during the pre-fight press conference, and about constantly hovering around as the backup, Jack responded with a line that many feel crossed the line. He said, "I don't think that's actually Ian's son, but I don't like M&Ms." The crowd laughed, but definitely did not. Garry was furious after hearing that comment. He responded swiftly, calling it immature and completely unnecessary. He didn't hold back. He said, "In Jack's last 4 fights, the guy has had 1 finish. So now he's out here telling me to hit the gym and work on my power? Please." He got beat up bad by Belal, and Belal ain't even close to the striker that I am. I'll bend his nose backward the way it should be. Made it clear that the M&M stunt wasn't meant to be disrespectful. It was a joke. He said, "My son giving him candy was just a bit of banter. It was playful, harmless. I'm not out here flying across the world to be a celebrity. I'm here to fight. That's why I show up. That's why I stay ready." Then he made things crystal clear. "If Jack ever becomes champion, I'll be the one to take that belt. The joke about the M&Ms was just comedy. A kid saying, 'Eat these so my dad can fight.' That's a laugh. For Jack to twist that and throw a jab at my son? That's low." Wrapped up by making one final point. "What he said shows he's shaken. He's rattled. That means my little joke actually got to him. If he's this triggered outside the cage, imagine what happens when I'm in there with him. He's mentally weak, but me? I'll never stoop so low to bring up his wife or his kids. I don't need to. I'll step in the cage, punch his mouth off, and take the belt. That's how I do business." Now moving on to another heated situation that's got fans talking. Justin Gaethje is pissed that he didn't get the title shot. Following the UFC's official announcement that Ilia Topuria would face Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title, Justin Gaethje didn't just take it on the chin, he was fuming, and according to those close to him, he feels completely disrespected by the decision. On a recent episode of the Anik and Florian podcast, the hosts broke down Justin's reaction behind the scenes. According to them, Gaethje has been dealing with a lot since that brutal knockout loss to Max Holloway. In fact, after that fight, Justin took a significant break from MMA, spending nearly 180 days away from the gym, and during that time, he took up golf, not casually either. They said he got really good at it, but no amount of golf could soften the blow when he heard that the UFC had chosen Charles Oliveira, someone he's already fought, to face Topuria for the belt. The podcast host said it best. "I was with Justin a lot this week, and he was pissed. He definitely feels passed over in favor of Charles for this opportunity against Ilia, and that frustration isn't just coming from Gaethje himself. His longtime manager Ali Abdelaziz is also reportedly fed up. Ali has been pushing behind the scenes to get Justin some guarantees. At this point, they're not just asking for a title shot, they're demanding clarity and respect. From their point of view, Justin has done enough to earn another shot at lightweight gold. Let's not forget, Gaethje has been one of the most exciting, reliable, and dangerous contenders in the lightweight division for years. He's been in wars, he's knocked people out, he's sold pay-per-views, he's faced the best of the best, Khabib, Poirier, Oliveira, Ferguson, Chandler, and most recently Max. So when someone like that gets passed over without a clear explanation, of course he's going to react. And here's what makes it more frustrating for Team Gaethje. Charles Oliveira is coming off a loss to Islam Makhachev, the former champ. He doesn't have a win streak. He hasn't done anything new to earn this opportunity. Meanwhile, Gaethje just fought Max Holloway in one of the craziest fights of the year. And even though he lost, many still believe he deserves another shot more than Oliveira does. Bottom line, Justin and his team are not happy. They want to know exactly where he stands in the title picture. And most importantly, they want the UFC to guarantee that Justin Gaethje is next after the Topuria versus Oliveira fight. No matter what happens, the message from Gaethje's side is clear. If respect isn't given, it will be taken, and Justin has never been the type to stay quiet for long, so don't be surprised if this drama heats up even more in the coming weeks. Moving on to another hot topic in the MMA world, Michael Bisping has stepped in and made it absolutely clear that he doesn't blame either Alex Pereira or Jiri Prochazka for turning down a fight with Magomed Ankalaev. The former middleweight champion and current UFC analyst gave his unfiltered opinion after Ankalaev went public, claiming that both top contenders had refused to face him. Speaking on his podcast, Bisping didn't hesitate to be honest. He said, "I don't blame Jiri, and I don't blame Pereira either, to be honest." According to Bisping, this isn't just about guys being afraid or avoiding tough fights. It's about timing, risk, and smart career moves. He emphasized that this wasn't a short notice situation either. The UFC had been trying to book Ankalaev a fight weeks ago, and with UFC 317 still 5 weeks away, there was technically enough time for a full training camp. But even so, Bisping stood by the decisions both fighters made. He specifically addressed Jiri Prochazka's situation, saying, "Jiri just lost. He's been beat twice by Pereira. If he gets another title shot and loses again, he might not get another one." And that's a crucial point in today's UFC landscape, where 1 or 2 losses can drop a fighter significantly down the rankings and delay another title opportunity for years. These decisions can define entire careers. Then Bisping turned his attention to Magomed Ankalaev, and he didn't sugarcoat it. He's huge. His style is awkward and dangerous. I wouldn't necessarily take that fight either. And when someone like Bisping, who's fought killers his entire career, says that, you know, it's a serious statement. Magomed Ankalaev is a high-risk, low-reward type of opponent. He doesn't talk trash. He doesn't bring in massive pay-per-view numbers, but he's incredibly skilled, deceptively strong, and known for his grinding, suffocating style that can shut down even the most explosive fighters. He's the kind of guy who can ruin your momentum, damage your stock, and barely move the needle in terms of hype or headlines. That's a nightmare combination for any contender on the rise, especially champions like Pereira or former champs like Jiri, who are focused on legacy, money fights, and strategic moves at this stage in their careers. So when Ankalaev came out recently and suggested that Pereira and Jiri were ducking him, Bisping stepped in with some much needed perspective. This isn't about fear, it's about strategy. And in today's UFC, strategy is everything. Bisping closed by saying, "It's not personal, it's just business." These guys are picking their shots, and right now, Ankalaev is a shot that doesn't make sense. Bottom line, Michael Bisping doesn't think Pereira or Jiri are running. He thinks they're being smart, and until Ankalaev becomes undeniable, he may find it hard to get a dance partner. Now let's talk about Strickland, who's once again making headlines. Not for what he said inside the cage, but for what he chose not to do. Strickland recently turned down a fight with rising middleweight contender Caio Borralho, and the reason? He originally had his sights set on someone else entirely, Reinier de Ridder. In a new interview with Helen Yee, Strickland gave fans a peek into the behind-the-scenes decision-making that goes into accepting fights. When asked about his next opponent, Sean said, "I wanted to fight that RDR kid, but he got booked." That kid is Reinier de Ridder, the former one championship double champion who recently signed with the UFC. Sean had hoped for a clash with RDR, likely seeing him as a high-profile opponent with grappling credentials that could make for a compelling matchup, but that plan didn't materialize. RDR ended up getting booked to fight Robert Whittaker, and Strickland's attention had to shift elsewhere. That's when Mick Maynard, UFC matchmaker, apparently came to Sean with an offer to fight Caio Borralho. Now, Caio is no pushover. He's an undefeated Brazilian prospect with solid striking and slick jiu-jitsu, a dangerous combination, but Sean made it clear he wasn't interested. "Mick Maynard wanted me to fight him. Such a great guy," Sean said, "but I said no." Well, we both kind of said no. And the reason wasn't fear. It wasn't ego. It was something far more personal. Strickland continued, "I know him. I know his wife. I know his family." That's the type of answer you rarely hear in the fight game. It's not about rankings or rivalry. It's about respect and personal boundaries. And in this case, Strickland drew a line he wasn't willing to cross. He didn't want to go into a cage and try to knock out someone he considers almost family. It's an unusual move, but it shows there's still some humanity left in this brutal sport. In the same interview, Sean also gave his prediction for the upcoming middleweight clash between Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev, a fight with huge title implications. Strickland, who's trained and even sparred with Khamzat, shared an interesting take. They can grapple someone like me. I've been doing this for years. I can counter wrestle and grapple them. He believes the key to beating Khamzat isn't to stand and bang, it's to neutralize his wrestling. If Dricus can do the same, he wins, hands down, Sean said. It's just a matter of whether Dricus can stop and counter his wrestling. According to Strickland, the blueprint to beat Khamzat exists, but whether Dricus du Plessis can execute it is the million-dollar question. So between fight refusals, loyalty to friends, and tactical predictions, Sean Strickland once again proves that in and out of the octagon, he always calls it exactly like he sees it. Now, let's circle back to Garry, who's once again made headlines, this time for taking a firm stance on the title picture in the welterweight division. Despite losing to Shavkat Rakhmonov by unanimous decision back in December, Ian isn't holding back. He believes that Shavkat should not be next in line for a title shot, and he had some clear reasons to explain why. During a recent appearance on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, Ian laid it all out. He said, "When you look at the welterweight division right now, I'd argue it's the most exciting it's ever been, 100%. Just look at the depth of talent. You've got a new generation coming in, guys under 30 who are on an absolute tear." He's not wrong. The division has evolved into a hotbed of young killers. Fighters like Shavkat, Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady, and Ian himself are all surging through the rankings. Ian emphasized that what makes the division special is this mix of youth, hunger, and raw talent, and in his eyes, that means nobody should be getting fast-tracked, not even someone as dangerous as Shavkat. Ian continued, "I was there as the backup. The UFC knows I'm game. I've shown I can step in against anyone. I've already proved that." He's referring to his role as the official backup fighter for the highly anticipated bout between Jack Della Maddalena and Belal Muhammad. His willingness to stay ready, travel, and cut weight shows just how committed he is to seizing any opportunity, and that's a trait he believes should be rewarded. He also mentioned the current momentum of others in the division. "Look, Bookie is going to run through Kamaru, and Sean Brady just beat Leon. We're all right there," he said. By Bookie, he's likely referring to Belal Muhammad, a top contender currently preparing for what could be a make-or-break fight. And Sean Brady's recent win over Leon Edwards is another shakeup in the title race that adds more complexity to who should really be next. Then Ian dropped the key line. "I don't believe Shavkat should just come back and get that title shot, not when the rest of us are still fighting and showing up." His point is clear. Staying active, taking risks, and being willing to fight anyone, anytime should matter in the title conversation. And while Shavkat is undefeated and highly skilled, Ian argues that recent activity and contribution to the division should weigh just as heavily. But he finished with a touch of realism. Unfortunately, that's not always how things work. A nod to the politics of matchmaking, where sometimes the most marketable, not necessarily the most active, get rewarded. Whether you agree or not, Ian Garry is making sure his voice is heard in a division that's more competitive than ever. Finally, let's talk about one of the most surprising stories this week, Chael Sonnen's reaction to the betting odds for Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. And honestly, this one has the whole MMA world talking. Chael couldn't believe it. He was genuinely shocked when he saw that Ilia Topuria is currently a minus 370 favorite against Charles. That's right. According to odds makers, Ilia is being heavily favored to win this fight, and not just by a little, by a massive margin. Chael reacted the way a lot of fans and analysts probably did. He said, minus 370, that's insane. And when you hear him say it with that signature Sonnen intensity, you know he means it. Then he broke it down, then his argument made a lot of sense. "We're talking about a world champion here," he said, referring to Charles. "A guy who defended the belt 3 times, a guy with more submissions than anyone in UFC history. And he's the underdog at that level." You could hear the disbelief in his voice. And honestly, it's hard to blame him. Charles Oliveira's resume is no joke. He's been in the UFC for over a decade. He's faced the who's who of the lightweight division, and he's finished legends like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Michael Chandler. He holds the record for the most submission wins in UFC history. And yet, he's being treated by the odds makers like a long shot against a rising star who, while undefeated, hasn't faced the same level of opposition. Even John Anet, one of the most respected voices in the sport, joined the conversation. He revealed that Justin Gaethje himself was also surprised by the odds. That's a guy who's shared the octagon with Charles and knows exactly how dangerous he is. If Gaethje is surprised, maybe the rest of us should be too. It's becoming clear that many in the MMA community see see these odds not just as surprising, but downright disrespectful to Charles. Yes, Ilia Topuria is young, explosive, and technically brilliant. He's unbeaten, and he just steamrolled Alexander Volkanovski to win the featherweight belt. But this is his first fight at lightweight, and he's going up against a former champ with some of the best finishing instincts in the sport. It raises a big question. Are we underestimating Oliveira? Or overhyping Topuria? From fighters getting personal over M&Ms, to contenders feeling snubbed out of title shots, to shocking odds that left analysts speechless. It's been one of the most drama-packed weeks in the world of MMA. And the craziest part? We're just getting started. The matchups are getting spicier, the tension is rising, and the stakes have never been higher. One thing's for sure, the fight game isn't just about punches and kicks. It's about narratives, emotion, and respect. And right now, everyone's watching to see how this one plays out.